What's up guys, it's Lee from Overbite Gaming here, and I'm going to do another retrospective review, and this time it's probably of the most well-liked electronic games device I ever had, and that was the Amiga. I got that sort of in my early mid-teens, somewhere around there, and it was just so instrumental in like forming what I liked as a gamer. It was just the most amazing thing, and you know, it was helped because games were easy to get a hold of in the playground, if you know what I mean. Anyway, what we're going to do first is, as before, we're going to go through the hardware, and then we're going to talk about some games. And in this case, we're going to be doing all of the sort of primary game versions of the Amiga, so we're not going to be doing the desktop stuff like the 1000 and the 2000s and up to the 4000s, which I think was the last one ever released. So we're going to start off with the venerable cut price intended for the low entry market thing. And that was the Amiga 500, the original. It shipped with half a meg of RAM. It did eventually get 1 meg, the later models did. But it was just an outstanding piece of kit. And basically, it was going to be Trammell. Jack Trammell was trying to get in on it, and he offered a horrible deal to Amiga. And then Commodore came in and swooped out from under him, so he went off and built the ST instead. In my opinion, they're very, very similar. But I think the Amiga edges it. I am biased. I did own an Amiga, although the ST was on my radar at that point. But so good, it just set the groundwork for the look of Amiga games and the sound and everything like that. That is just so iconic about this piece of kit. Next, you had the Amiga 500 Plus, which is the one I got. I got it in the Cartoon Classics pack, which came bundled with. Yeah, it's a bit of a mixed bag. You've got Bart versus the Space Mutants, Lemmings, and Captain Planet were the bundled games. Oh, and Deluxe Paint 3, but not really a game, so who cares? I mean, that's a real mixed bag. I mean, you've got 2 games that aren't great, and then you've got 1 outstanding game in Lemmings, which I'm going to talk about later and have a bit of an anecdote for you. The 500 Plus did ship out of the box with 1 meg. It also had an upgraded operating system. I think it was 2.03, I think that was it, as opposed to 1.2 or 1.3 on the 500. This did cause some issues. Some games just refused to load. But the good thing was you could get a program I got off a cover disk called Reload Kick. And what that would do is it would basically downgrade it to the 1.2, 1.3, and then you could run any game you bloody well wanted. So that was lovely. Next came the Amiga 600. This was intended as a lower cost alternative to the 500. As it turned out, the manufacturing cost was so high on it, they actually had to replace the 500 with it. As a result, the 500 Plus was only on the market for about 6 months. It's a cut down. 500 is much smaller in size. It's basically the same as a 500. You haven't got a keypad. It's just smaller. It also had the same sort of problems with the new operating system as the 500 Plus did. I never owned one. My friend did. It works. You know, it was a cut price thing. It didn't really do anything much better than the 500. It was intended to be like the budget model, but it just didn't work out that way. So it did supplant it, and there's nothing wrong with it. But yeah, it's kind of like, why make a new model when the other one's doing gangbusters? Whatevs. Next came the Amiga 1200. This was the first of the Amigas to implement AGA, Advanced Graphic Architecture, which allowed it to push more and was just generally more powerful. It came with a whole 2 meg of RAM, and I never really got my hands on one. I would assume it had the same sort of issues with the operating system on games. I did see there were specific games out featuring AGA stuff, which was only for it. I think there was a version of Silly Putty which was out that was only for the 1200 essentially. That wasn't the last one they did, but it was really the last one targeted at home users. And yeah, the next one kind of killed them. They did the CD32. The CD32 was basically a cut down Amiga 1200 with a CD-ROM drive, although they were also bringing in, well, about to bring in CD-ROM drive for the A1200 itself, so it's kind of like, why would I need that? But it was intended to compete in the console market, and it did moderately well in Europe, but because Commodore had been so horribly mismanaged up to that point, it kind of killed it off, and any chance it had of competing was gone along with Commodore. And that's a quick history of the sort of consumer-based devices that Amiga did. Let's move on to some games. And the first game, Lemmings. Oh my god, how much did I play this game? I mean, I had a few of my mates provided a few games for me, if you know what I mean. But out of the 3 packing titles from my Amiga 500 Plus, which I still have, by the way, it's upstairs right now. Lemmings was played to death. It was, out of the 3, it was easily the best game that was packed in. No question. If you don't know what Lemmings is, you've got like a set number of lemmings that you need to traverse through a level and get them to an escape door, and you can assign them different roles like miners, diggers, stoppers, blockers, or exploders, and to get them through the level. And it's really clever, really fun. It's a puzzle game, but it's so much fun. I'm trying to say basically that there's no frustration to it. Even when you've completely tanked a level, you're not frustrated because you can blow all the bastards up, and that's amazing. One funny anecdote was I came downstairs for something, and when I got back up, my bedroom door was closed, and I could hear Mum and Dad giggling from inside. I was a little bit like, well, that's not on in my room, guys. Come on. So I went back downstairs for a while, and I stayed down there for about an hour. And I was like, there's no way he's lasted a bloody hour. I'm going to see what's bloody going on. So I come upstairs, knocked on the door, and they were bloody on my Amiga playing Lemmings. I was ashamed for no reason. Still, they had a good time, and Mum, who is sadly no longer with us, so I bet that's a nice memory for Dad to have. So I can't blame him too much, even though I would rather him playing it. Next, we're going to talk about the Chaos Engine. There is no game out which just exemplifies the graphical style and the sound and music of the Amiga more than the Chaos Engine, in my opinion. It's by the Bitmap brothers, who have rarely put a foot wrong in their game design. It's just absolutely amazing. Top-down shooter, brilliant. Just music's banging. You've got different characters. You can upgrade things from a store. And it's really interesting level design, layout. It looks beautiful. It sounds great. And I have Let's Played it, so go look for that on our channel. And I'm not going to put a link, because if you see anything else you like, watch that too, alright? And then we have North and South. North and South is basically, I think it was done by Infogrames, and it was about the American Civil War. Hence North and South, obviously. But it was done in a really nice cartoony style. You had pitched battles where you had cannons, cavalry and infantry on either side, and basically last army standing won. You also had ones where you had to run across a train, so you tried to intercept like the enemy's gold, and that was sort of a platformer. And you had a very similar one where you were attacking enemies' fort and you tried to get in there and raise your own flag. Amazing game, very difficult. I was terrible at the platforming stuff. I mean, anyone that's been watching the channel knows I'm awful at platformers, but that one was just so fun. I mean, the pitch battles, just firing the cannons and watching the horses just fall down dead. Yeah, sorry to anyone who likes horses. Sorry. And for my last pick of games I want to talk about, it's something Snares Let's Played, I believe, although we play so much on the channel it's sometimes hard to remember. And that's Speedball 2. Again, oh my god, this game exemplifies the Amiga. It is iconic, it's classic, it has really in-depth upgrade systems, star players. It's basically you run up to a goal, throw a ball in. Sounds easy, right? No, sirree, Bob. You can get mullered completely in it, and you had 2 little robots that come along and stretch you off if you're completely done in. It's just plays, it looks, it sounds amazing. And I believe it's by the Bitmap brothers again, so well done, lads. I'll put something up with correcting me if it's not, but I'm pretty sure it is. Isn't it? Anyway, guys, that's my short video about the history of the Amiga and some of the choice games that I played. There were a lot more I could have put in, but a lot of them suffered from slowdown. Like we got Street Fighter 2, which ran very slowly. It wasn't unplayable, but you kind of had to get used to the speed that it ran at. So I went and played my mate's SNES version of it, and that ran so much faster I had no chance. He just completely battered me. Wing Commander was on it as well. That was the first place I played Wing Commander, because I didn't have a PC until a bit later. And oh man, I just love Wing Commander games, and that is where it came from. Although it was slow and you sort of it made the minefields and the asteroids a bit easier in fairness, but yeah, it was super slow. But I finished Wing Commander. I've never finished it on the PC, probably because it runs faster. But I finished it on the Amiga, and I loved the hell out of that game. And we had Frontier as well. That wasn't too bad actually in terms of speed. That did all right. Although I always have a problem with sort of Frontier, because it's relativistic, so it's going at actual speed. So the only way I could really shoot anything, I know I've got a mate, Bungle, who's basically like, well, I could do it, you must just be shit. And probably he's right, which is a rarity in fairness. But the only way I could do it was target something, set autopilot so it would point me at it, and then just hold down the fire button, because they're moving at like realistic speeds. They're there and gone before you can hardly see them. It's just ridiculous. But as I said, Bungle would have a problem, so I don't know. Maybe he's got a cybernetic brain, which I wouldn't put past him. Anyway, guys, thank you for listening and watching the pictures that I've been showing you. I hope it brought back some good memories for you guys, because it certainly did for me. And we release videos every Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. This is my last video for the next 2 weeks, so Snare will be taking over. I know he's got a few things he wants to do. I don't know if you like them, but it's Snare, so probably. Anyway, guys, take it easy, and I'll catch you next time. He's spending 60% of his life locked in his fucking car, shooting the same things over and over.
Okay, that's a good point. We'll come on to this now. So, in this game, we now have access to... I don't know if it was in the last game or not. I didn't play that one, but the risk is much higher as well.
Yeah, it's not just a PvP area either. It's an area that allows PvP, but there are AI enemies in there, and they're all hella tough. It's definitely designed for cooperative play in there.
Yeah, and I'd actually suggest